Men, and I use the term loosely, of course. Hey, back on this 75 project we're building. This is the cracked, broken out primary area after repair. I filled it all in with weld, kind of blended it all in there, milled it all flat. While it was in the milling machine, drilled and tapped the hole so the hole is perpendicular to the surface here. That way the plug will go in straight and it'll seal better. Here is the primary chain tensioner boss that was cracked up both sides. Grooved it all out, welded it in, milled it off flat, put a Healy coil in it, so this is ready to go. Here is the crack. Well, here was the crack in the cam chest area. Grooved it out, welded it in. Just filed this off. It was only a little bit in this area here. So this is ready to go. And here's an FYI for you. I knocked the Timken bearing race out of the crankcase. And you may wonder why I do that. Well, this is why. And it has to do with the way this thing works. Oil gets splashed around in the crankcase. It dribbles down and gets collected by these little V ridges over here. In the V ridges, it runs into this hole in here. Well, that hole lines up with this groove right here, and the bearing race has little holes in it around this groove that allow oil to flow in and lubricate the bearing. So you see there's no pressure involved, it's just drip feed in there. But anyway, the reason I knocked these out of there is because, number one, there could be shit that's gotten in here, and you can't get it out otherwise. It gets trapped in this groove and you can't get it out. And then if you sandblast the motor, you could plug that hole and you could try to tape these things up, these holes on the inside to keep sand from getting in there. But you can never really be 100% positive that you didn't get blasting grit down inside here. So, you got to knock it out. And I do. Now I'm going to put it back in and I'm going to do the heat the crankcase and drop it in thing. I've done several of these. And some of them, literally, the race has fallen into the hole. And if I didn't have the snap ring in, it would fall out the other side. The last couple of 2 or 3 I did not fit that well, and I had to knock them in. We're going to do this, and we're going to heat up the case, chill the bearing, and we're going to see how well I do on this one. Anyway, the other part of this thing is this. After the oil circulates and dribbles around the bearing race, it collects in the bottom and it goes into this hole here. And this hole drains it back into the bottom of the crankcase. But anyway, that's the full path. Dribbles in the top, runs around the groove, dribbles out the bottom. So we're going to heat this up. We're going to put a bearing race in, and we're going to put these cases together today. Okay, got a hot case and a chilled race. Let's see if I can get it in straight this time. That was perfect. Doesn't get any better than that. I've already test fit the flywheels in the crankcase. They fit the first time, which is very unusual. But on the other hand, I'm reusing the crank pin, the pinion shaft, and the sprocket shaft. Everything run-out wise and condition wise was good, so there's no reason it shouldn't fit the same way it fit before. and just barely detectable free play, so this is all good. And of course, my favorite sealant for crankcases, Loctite 518. And now, of course, that part of the process where I always question myself, do I have all the pieces stuffed in here that need to be stuffed in here? Yeah, I think so. You know, there's really not that much that goes between the crankcases other than the assembled flywheels. Actually, there's nothing that goes in there besides the assembled flywheels. I do have the snap ring installed on the inner side of the Timken race. And yeah, it's good to go. In the test fitting, I noticed that the dowel pins were really tight on this motor. But looks like it's ready. And there you go. Another one bolted together. I'm going to clean this oil pump up and install it on the engine. But before I do that, let's take a moment, maybe a couple of moments, to rail once again against the use of silicone sealant. And let's just totally bash the ham-fisted fuckstick who called himself a mechanic who put this oil pump together in the first place. What the fuck? How fucking stupid can you get? And this particular engine had a oil pressure gauge installed up here that literally was finger tight in this fitting. So I'm sure it was leaking. And I assume it was installed there because the guy was worried about his oil pressure. Well, no shit, Sherlock. You fucking blocked the passageway. Ay, ay, ay. And all of this, of course, is, you know, this gets up in the crank pin. These gobs of silicone get caught between the oil pump gears, and you're going to break something. It's really this owner's good fortune that he decided to let me tear this motor down because he was, you know, it basically ran, didn't have a lot of power, probably because the pistons were melting their way into the cylinder walls. But, you know, with an oil pump like this thing was not long for the world. Any amount of this really is too much. Just a disaster. Anyway, we're going to clean this up, put it together, and install it. And with that, I am out of here. Thank you all ever so much for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and tune in next week where we're going to put some more shit together. Bye.